Long, long ago, when the earth was young and the forests of the Ukwuani kingdom were thick and green, there lived a man named Odumake. Odumake was a man of great pride, but also of great loneliness. You see, he possessed a secret that made him envied by all. He was the only man in the entire world who owned goats. Odumake, these creatures were not just animals to him. They were his family, his joy, and his pride. Every single morning, before the sun could kiss the dew off the grass, Odumake would be awake. He nurtured his goats with the tenderest leaves, fetched them clean water from the sparkling stream, and brushed their coats until they shone like polished ebony. "My beautiful ones," he will whisper, his voice thick with emotion, "I work hard so you may want for nothing." Before leaving for his farm each day, Odumake will carefully guide them into his mud-walled house, locking the heavy wooden door securely. He did this to protect them from the wild beasts of the forest. Satisfied, he would shoulder his hoe and walk to his farm, his heart at peace. But the moment Odumake's footsteps faded into the distance, a strange magic took over the house. The goats would look at each other, their eyes gleaming with mischief. Together, they would push and heave until they brought down Odumake's heavy wooden chest. The box where he kept his finest, most colorful, traditional clothes. With incredible skill, the goats would wriggle into his bright wrappers, throw his woven shawls over their shoulders, and place his caps upon their heads. Then the celebration would begin. They would stand on their hind legs, stamping their hooves, singing and dancing with wild, joyful abandon. Odumake has gone to the farm. Oh, we wear the clothes. We rule the house. Oh, dance, dance, the world is ours. This happened every day while Odumake sweated under the scorching sun. His goats were living like kings. However, secrets have a way of leaking out. The loud singing and the thudding of hooves soon attracted Odumake's neighbors. Peering through the cracks in the wooden windows, the villagers gasped in absolute shock. They saw the goats dressed in fine clothes, dancing better than human beings. When Odumake returned that evening, a neighbor called him aside. "Odumake, your house is full of spirits. Your goats wear your clothes and dance when you leave." Odumake laughed, ha 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 ha, a booming sound of disbelief. "My goats, they are innocent, gentle creatures. You are merely jealous of my wealth." You will see. But the seed of doubt was planted. The next morning, Odumake went through his usual routine. He fed them, locked them in, and bid them goodbye. But instead of walking to his farm, he crept around to the back of the house and hid behind a large water pot, his heart pounding with anxiety. Within minutes, the commotion began. He heard the heavy thud of his closed chest hitting the floor. Then came the singing, loud and cheerful. Odumake crept to the window and looked inside.
"Get out of my house this
His
instant!
breath caught in his throat.
Get out of my house
His
this
favorite
instant!"
red wrapper, the one he had inherited from his father, was tied around his big billy goat. Another goat was wearing his best cap, dancing a joyful jig. A wave of intense betrayal washed over Odumake.
Get out! Get
The
out of my
love
house
in
this
his heart
instant!
instantly turned into burning, blinding anger.
Get
He had
out!
slaved for them,
Get out of my house
protected
this
them,
instant!
and cherished them, only for them to make a mockery of his home and his belongings. Bursting through the door with a heavy cane, Odumake roared in fury. The music stopped. The goats froze in terror. "Ungrateful beasts," Odumake cried. tears of hurt and anger streaming down his face. He began to flog them with all his might. The room filled with chaos. Bleating in pain and terror, the ghost desperately tore through the clothes, scrambled out of the windows, and burst through the door. They ran out into the village square, crying out for mercy. Blinded by fear, the ghosts ran into the open compounds of Odumake's neighbors, hiding behind the skirts of women and the legs of men, trembling and begging for protection. The neighbors, seeing the terrified animals, felt a deep sense of pity. They knelt, stroked their heads, and comforted them. They refused to hand them back to the enraged Odumake. From that unforgettable day, the ghosts never returned to Odumake's house. They scattered across the village and eventually across the entire face of the earth. That is how other humans began to breed, love, and take care of goats. Odumake was left with his farm and his fine clothes, but his home was forever silent, a reminder of the day anger drove away his greatest treasure. The moral lesson of this story is that anger destroys relationships. Odumake had every right to be upset, but his uncontrolled fury and harsh punishment drove away those he loved the most. Then the weight of betrayal. It hurts deeply when those we care for secretly abuse our trust, but how we react defines our future. Blessings shared with the world also comes from this story. Sometimes the painful separation is the universe's way of sharing our unique blessing with the rest of humanity.